What's the harsh reality no one accepts? Bad things will happen to you for no reason. I always liked the Star Trek quote, "It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose." That is not a weakness. That is life. For that reason, some things just happen and that's the way it is. Some parents just don't love their children. I was reading an article about 10 things therapists don't tell you. And one of them was that many parents admit they don't love their children. This one scares me. Edit, found the article. Not the most scientific. BestLivianLine.com as to why it scares me. When my son was born, he was more a stranger in my house, and it was not a love at first sight. I was happy to some extent, but never felt like you see in movies. I talked with therapists and be reading about it here and there. Not uncommon for dads to have to work on bonding with newborns. Son is now 10 months and much improved on bonding. But you always kind of judge how you initially reacted and if that's who you really are, etc. It would help if people actually gave a thought into having kids and didn't just have them because it's what you're supposed to do. They're increasingly doing so. That's why birth rates are dropping like stones around the world. Beauty matters in how people treat people. You don't always keep the good friends you meet. But that doesn't mean you can't make more later on down the road. Edit, thanks for my very first platinum, gold, and the silver. You guys are awesome. From the BoJack Horseman finale, and something I've realized and made peace with, I think there are people that help you become the person that you end up being, and you can be grateful for them, even if they were never meant to be in your life forever. Alexa, play Mr. Blues. Some people just can't be saved. You could give them every benefit in the world and they still could choose to throw it all away, and you can't do anything about it. This is a tough lesson to learn. People have to want to change. Nothing you can do can make people change if they are resistant to it. Very few people truly accept their mortality, and most of the time when it truly sinks in, people get scared and want to avoid it. Shit keeps me up at night sometimes with a dread swelling in my stomach. Edit, and just like that, my fears have become my most upvoted post. This world. I feel mine in my heart. It's that thought of just being over. Gone. No longer experiencing. Good, bad, just experiencing. My heart starts to race, I get cold sweats, my stomach drops, my chest feels like it is sinking into itself, and feels like panic setting in. I have to force myself to go do something just to make it stop. Me too, brother. Horrifying anxiety attacks, complete overpowering sensation of dread and impending nothingness. It passes after a few moments, but it completely wrecks me emotionally for an hour or so afterwards. Same thing happens to me. Horrible, horrible, and nearly indescribable feeling. Sometimes I will catch just a short glimpse of the dreadful feeling of not existing anymore. I try to hold on to it, in the same way I keep watching horror films, but I can't for more than a few seconds. Mistakes do define you. The little ones don't, but if you make a big mistake, it will alter your life to an extent. Saying that they don't matter is a lie that will prevent you from diagnosing life problems later down the line. This is something I wrestle with a lot in terms of my recovery from alcoholism. I quit young, at 24, and have been sober 7 years without relapse. Despite that accomplishment, I have alcoholic neuropathy, nerve damage, that will never go away no matter how long I'm sober. This is a wonderful accomplishment though. Quitting is so hard, even if you have every reason to. You chose life. Thanks. Best decision I've ever made. It gets a lot easier the more time you have. And luckily, my nerve damage is relatively minor, but it's not uncommon for me to get painful pins and needle sensations and numbness in certain fingers and throughout my left foot. People assume only hardcore alcoholics who drank for decades have these types of problems, but I was physically dependent for only 3 years and it happened. Alcohol is really ducking hard on the body, and so grateful it doesn't run my life anymore. First impressions are a very ducking big deal. They can be. My partner is on the road a lot for his job. This particular week he was away with one of the big bosses of the company. Everyone in the office knew the big boss was traveling with my partner in the car. My partner got a call from a customer, had to ring the office to finalize the sale all via the car kit. Office guy picks up the phone. "Yeah, what do you want?" in a super uninterested gruff voice. Needless to say, he left a lasting impression. Seems like it's not that important, but in a workplace that kind of thing stands out. I worked at a pretty small retail chain in Australia that was doing very well overseas. Every now and then, big boss from overseas flies over to check up on how things were going. All I've ever heard is bitchy things about this woman. Anyway, one unassuming day, this lady walks right up to the counter, and within 10 seconds I say, "Hi, how are you going today?" with a smile. This lady kind of awkwardly laughs, and my store manager laughs hysterically and is like, "OMG, that's Nicole." "Haha, you goof. How rude, you assumed she was a customer." And Nicole just looked to my manager politely and said, "Well, actually, you should assume everyone is a customer, and treat them in that exact way." That was perfect. This was my first job and I was totally embarrassed, but it was flipped and I realized that interaction actually looked great for me, and I immediately impressed the big boss. Stupid of my manager to try and humiliate me. I saw kind of the reverse happen once. I was working as a pharmacy technician and the district manager came for a store visit. He was talking to the pharmacist about pointless metrics and a patient walked up to the counter. The pharmacist kept trying to leave and help them, but the DN kept stopping him, saying, "That's technician work. Let's focus on the task at hand." This was like 4 feet from the counter, and they definitely heard it. Except there were only 3 technicians, and we were all helping other patients at the drive-thru or on the phone. Eventually one of us got to the counter, and the patient said, "Wow, your boss's boss is an asshole, huh?" That guy was our favorite person for a while. Money and good looks matter. And if you don't have enough good looks, just add money. And if you have neither, get drunk until you don't care anymore. Hard work doesn't always pay off. Something I learned my first week in the corporate world, and again even up until all the coronavirus layoffs. A non-executive's value to the company is strictly dictated by which side of the balance sheet their compensation falls. Pain is inescapable. Not even acknowledging that pain is inevitable and preparing for it ahead of time can lessen it. You will be taken by surprise, you will be hurt, you will not enjoy it, you will not be able to numb it, and there is nothing you can do except take it on the chin. Edit, I guess I should add, it's true you can prepare yourself to experience certain kinds of pain and lessen its impact, but when I said this, I meant that eventually something was going to come up that you never prepared for and cause pain anyway, just didn't do a good job of making that clear, sorry. Oh, and yes, pain can also bring about growth, I don't disagree with that at all. I am reminded of an iconic quote from Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, and I paraphrase, "I have discovered why humans laugh. Not because there is a levity, but because there is a wrongness. Humans laugh because something is wrong. Some people just don't get a happy ending, some people never find happiness or satisfaction. People tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but for some people there isn't, they never get to see any light, just darkness." Yeah, I once lived with someone like that. She was in her 70s, 80s, and I rented a room in her house for a few months. She was truly miserable. She told me about how she grew up in Turkey with an absent father and abusive alcoholic mother. She told me how she escaped her overbearing family by marrying an Indian diplomat. Then how her husband abused her for years. She was missing teeth because of it. Then when her family moved to Canada, how she worked for years for her husband and kids with no thanks. By the time I moved in with her, she was all alone, living in low-income housing, yelling at her kids on the phone once a week about how they are terrible children who never visit, and ranting to me about how terrible her life had been and how many regrets she had. She was an awful person to be around, but it was clear she had lived a life full of suffering. A parent can't say anything they haven't heard. Sometimes people who have only lived through malice and hate can't understand or reciprocate love. It's really difficult to do something that no one has shown you before. It's much easier to stick with what you know. That I don't care that you broke your elbow. Odd duck, I can't believe you've done this. Not everyone is going to like you, no matter how hard you try. Do I need to be liked? Absolutely not. I like to be liked. I enjoy being liked. I have to be liked, but it's not like this compulsive need to be liked, like my need to be praised. Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy. Both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.